Warning! The opinions on this podcast are of the hosts and guests only, and may contain childish humor. Listen at your own discretion. And now, please adjust your headphone volumes to an unreasonable level and prepare to enjoy the most dynamic and electrifying podcast that cyberspace has encountered.
Welcome back to the show. This is episode 50 of Sports Bliss
with Rob
and Chris. Today, we are filming this on a very special day. The draft is moments or hours away, however you want to look at it. So with that being said, we are going to continue with our conspiracy mini-series, and we will have all of the draft info ready to talk about on our next episode. But first, what are you drinking?
I am having...
What is in your can? What is in your can?
I'm having a Coppertail Free Dive. It's an IPA out of St. Pete, Tampa area.
That's like
nice.
One of your go-tos.
I like it. I just grabbed it right out of the fridge. It was the first one at the front, but I do like it.
And do you know what I'm drinking? I mean, obviously you can see it. It's not
People
a
out there,
Bard's.
it's not a Bard's. It's not a Bard's.
I am drinking a White Claw lime because it's just not Bard's. If you're listening, can you take down the carbs a little bit because it's not fitting in my macros. So I'm going on the little Diet Express.
I love it. You got to watch your carbs these days.
Okay, so for today's show, we're going to continue our conspiracy mini-series. And then at the very end, Rob is going to take us on the journey of the top quarterback prospects in the draft. Okay, so I am just going to...
I can't wait.
I am just going to start.
I'm going to start it. We didn't share, by the way. So
I just can't.
Okay.
I can't do
do
it anymore. Okay.
You go first.
Okay. So my story is about the 1995 Rugby World Cup.
Uh-oh.
And if you remember, I kind of touched on this, but I thought it would be good to go back.
I remember you mentioning, but I don't recall what you said about it.
Yeah.
So this is a total surprise.
I think I said
to me.
like 2 words of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the conspiracy question was the New Zealand team poisoned before the final?
Ooh.
Okay, now this is the conspiracy. The heavily favored New Zealand team was intentionally given food poisoning during the 95 Rugby World Cup final, helping South Africa to win the title. Dun, dun, dun. That's the basic theory, okay? So why is the question?
Yeah.
Why? The fact that most members of the New Zealand team were sick that day isn't in dispute. That was obvious during the match and has been well documented since. But why is the question?
Yeah, like how did they know they were poisoned?
Okay, we're going to get to it. That's where the conspiracy theories thrive. The origins of the problem have been traced back to one specific All Blacks team meal in a different room than normal and with a waitress known as Susie in quotation marks.
You can't trust those Susies.
Susie. A couple of days before the final. We'll spare you all the details. So I'm reading this. Basically, there's a lot of diarrhea.
Oh my goodness.
But no, it wasn't a pretty scene and nothing was ever proven though. Okay. So basically the whole entire team got sick at this one specific meal by this one specific waitress.
That's Susie. She's behind it.
Yeah. It seems very plausible and it seems, I mean, if it wasn't food poisoning, maybe it was something.
What I was thinking initially is, were all these guys drinking? Because they're rugby players, and I just think, they're smashing beers and they're tough guys and that.
But they all had the same symptoms.
Oh, wow.
Okay. As for the result of the game, South Africa's win was maybe the most iconic moment in rugby history. The 95 World Cup was the first major event held in South Africa after the end of apartheid. And the image of Nelson Mandela handing the Webb Ellis Cup to Captain Francois Pignard, I think I butchered that name, but...
It's okay. I'm not your fact checker.
It will never be forgotten. That World Cup was made into the 2009 movie Invictus.
Oh, wow. I remember that movie.
With Morgan Freeman playing Mandela and Matt Damon playing Pignard.
Oh,
Plausibility rating is about a 3 on a scale of 1 to 10.
So a lot of people don't believe it, but...
I believe it.
But I believe it.
What are the chances that the team that was supposed to win the World Cup for rugby, they all got poisoned, or they all got food poisoning or similar food poisoning symptoms, because this is all like allegedly, by this one waitress that was serving them the night before, and that they fell ill to where they couldn't perform at their peak.
Wow. Isn't that
crazy?
That's crazy. And where was it again? Where was the match? Did they say?
Oh, it was held in South Africa.
Then that makes me believe it even more.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. The home, basically,
because it's home cooking.
The home team.
The pun.
Yeah, the home team basically. They
put
won.
The kibosh on it. They put the
exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That's a good one. I like that
That's
one.
Good.
So okay, I'm about to blow your mind.
Okay.
Because we didn't talk about this beforehand, but I have another poisoning conspiracy.
No.
Is your mind blown?
It's about to be blown. Let me hear the story.
Okay. So it was 1997, the NBA Finals, Michael Jordan versus the Utah Jazz. It was Game 5. And so it was called the Great Flu Game, where he had the flu, is what they told everybody, because he looked terrible on the court. He was like diaphoretic. He was sweating everywhere. Scottie Pippen had to hold him up at the end of the game, but he scored 38 points, and he had like 7 rebounds and 5 assists, something crazy like that. I may be wrong on a little bit of that, but he had 38 points, I know. And they won the game, and he played 44 minutes out of the 48 minutes.
Wow.
And so people are like, oh my gosh, the flu couldn't even keep Michael Jordan down. And he said he had the flu.
Were they giving him fluids and stuff on
Well, nobody knows the whole story.
Timeouts and all of that?
Nobody knows the story, but they said he had the flu, right?
Okay.
But here's the conspiracy. So people don't think he had the flu. There's 2 theories on what happened. One is that he was food poisoned.
Okay.
Because they're like, the first part of the evidence is, if he had the flu, why would they let him around all the other players?
Exactly.
It's only Game 5. They have 7 games.
Well, he's going to, now.
He could get everybody.
Now,
exactly. I mean, this is very appropriate now, right? So they wouldn't have let him around the rest of the team, right?
Right.
If he had the flu. So the story goes, his personal trainer said late the night before the game, he got hungry, Michael Jordan. And he told him, I want a pizza. And so he ordered...
From where?
He ordered a pizza.
From where? That's the question.
I know. So he orders a pizza, supposedly from the hotel room service.
Oh, okay.
But here's where it gets sketchy. 5 guys deliver the pizza. And the trainer's like, this is kind of weird. It starts to raise red flags. Oh. And Michael Jordan's like, I don't care. I'm hungry. I want to eat it.
They did something to the food.
He was the only one who ate the pizza, Michael Jordan. Okay? And then supposedly at 2 a.m., he's calling his trainer saying, man, I'm really sick. I don't feel good. They come in there and he's curled up in like a fetal position, vomiting and diarrhea, everything, right?
Yeah.
And the trainer looked at him and said, this isn't the flu. This is food poisoning. That's what he thought it was then, but they didn't tell anybody. So I'm assuming they gave him fluids and all this sort of stuff, and he came out and had this heroic performance and they won the game.
Right.
Now that's one theory. The other theory is that everybody knows Michael Jordan liked to party.
What if he wasn't sick at all?
The other theory is that he was out drinking. This is from Jalen Rose.
Oh, that he was just extremely hungover.
He's told the stories that he was extremely hungover.
I could see that. 100. I could see that.
But so here's what I said. This is what I think. With fluids, and if you give some anti-emetic type of medication and some anti-diarrheal, you should be okay with food poisoning. They could give him a bunch of IV fluid the whole day.
But to go and play a game?
Yeah, I mean, you could feel pretty good. He's a world-class athlete. So
they probably dosed him up on steroids too.
Even
a shot of steroids.
Even with a hangover, the same thing, right?
Right.
What if
right.
he had a mild case of pancreatitis though? Where
But
you
was
can't
he-
hold the fluid down
Was
or
he
anything.
getting sick on the court?
He never left the game to have like diarrhea, so that's the reason a lot of people they don't
Yeah,
know what to
it was
believe. That's the reason a
not-
lot of
yeah.
people believe the hangover part.
I could see that. Who are they playing?
The Utah Jazz.
And this was during
The finals.
The finals.
Yeah.
I know this is kind of sketch, but I just came up with my own theory.
Okay.
What if he wasn't sick at all?
I had thought about that too.
And they were
at
like,
one point
let's
in
just
time.
say he's sick. Let's
Because-
just say he's sick. So that way they don't play as hard.
Well, no,
And that
to
they
like
still win.
to raise the like lore of Michael Jordan, you know, because this was like at the end. I mean, I think that was his last championship. I think that was his 6th championship in '97.
That just blew my mind. What if they faked it?
Yeah, what if I always thought that? What if they kind of faked it? Because remember, Paul Pierce did that whole thing where he said he was really hurt and he was in the playoffs and they took him off in the
But that's a lot of players do that.
in the wheelchair and he actually had just pooped his pants.
Yeah, that has happened. But that has happened with a lot of players. They fake injuries or whatever they do.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, isn't that interesting?
That's so interesting.
Yeah, so that's the flu game. But I probably tend to believe the food poisoning, I think. I don't know.
I don't know, man.
Because the plausibility's
You've
there.
had food poisoning, even if you get meds and fluids and all that to play a game. That's like,
Well, I read some articles,
That's
and that's what
crazy.
some doctors said. They said, well, you know, most people wouldn't be able to do it. Probably Jordan could. And, you know, I think if they got
but
a
he
bunch
played
of...
the whole game.
He played more than any other player.
So I don't believe that.
He played more than any other player.
I don't believe that.
Now, we've both had the flu before.
Yeah. I thought I was going to die.
I could play basketball with food poisoning or hungover easier than the flu. Because the flu is like no joke.
I thought I was going to die.
When you have
Literally.
the true flu people out there, it's no joke.
Yeah, so I don't believe that for a second. Either he was hungover or it was fake. That's my allegedly.
Yeah, and a lot of people have said that, you know, Jordan was known to drink even before games. Like he would go play golf and
Did they-
slam like 10 beers and
I
then
wonder
go
if
out
they're
and play.
going to
and
talk about this on
score a
the
bunch of money.
documentary.
Yeah, I think so. That's the other reason I brought it up, because The Last Dance is going on now.
Have you gotten to, but you haven't gotten to that part if
No,
they do talk about it.
I've only seen the first one, so I think there's 9 or 10 of them. I've only seen the first one, so we'll see. They'll probably get to it though.
And there you have it, folks.
There you have it.
Okay, let's switch gears.
Yeah, so I thought it would be interesting to just kind of go over like the top prospects in the NFL draft, the quarterbacks most specifically, and how they got into the position that they're in, because a lot of them have very key things happen in their college career to get where they're at. All right. So let's take Joe Burrows, for example. He's probably going to go number 1 tonight.
Right.
He was at Ohio State. He couldn't be the starter, right?
No.
We all remember that. So he was looking to transfer going into his junior year.
Right.
Do you know where he was going to go? He wasn't going to go to LSU, I'll tell you that.
I don't know.
He was trying to stay close to home, and he was going to go and be the starting quarterback for the Cincinnati Bearcats.
Okay.
Yeah, in the American Athletic Conference.
Yeah.
And it was all over the papers. He had already taken his visits there. It was like a slam dunk. They had it ready for him to come there. And he would have had a good career there. But do you think if he would have gone to school there, he would be the number 1 pick right now?
No, absolutely not.
No, he wouldn't. And then the story goes is that he said, kind of right at the last minute, he's like, Dad, you know, I really want to go visit this other school. I want to go visit LSU. And his dad said, yeah, let's go. So he goes, he brings his brother also. The 3 of them go, and they end up spending the weekend with Coach O. And Coach O wasn't Coach O yet, right?
Right.
They hadn't won any real big games. He had just started. He was kind of on the hot seat. So he ends up watching film with Joe, and then he goes out to dinner. Guess where he takes him? Texas de Brazil.
Oh.
How do you say no to Coach O at Texas de Brazil, right?
Is that a chain, by the way?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, they're around.
Oh,
but it's
okay.
still good, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so he has dinner there, right? Have a good night. The next day they meet up again. They watch film all day, talk football, all this sort of stuff. Then he takes him to dinner, and he takes him to this like well-known seafood place, and it's called Mike Anderson's.
Okay.
Okay. And so he gets him to try crawfish and all this sort of stuff, and they
I was
spend some more
gonna say
time.
if he introduces him to some good Louisiana
And so
cooking.
afterwards, he just felt really good about it, about the experience with him. And he said to his dad, he's like, Dad, I don't know if I want to go to Cincinnati. And his dad said, well, you got to follow your heart and follow your passion. Go wherever you want. And so he made the decision to go to LSU at that point. But his career would have been totally different. And let's face it, he didn't have a great junior year.
No, he played what? Did he play the whole year?
Yeah, he did.
It was, okay, listen. It was not that memorable because I don't remember him playing.
The most memorable
6 games is all I remember him playing.
The most memorable part of that season is when he threw the pick 6 against UCF and they almost knocked him out.
Yeah.
Then he turned it around and started playing, and he never stopped after that.
Right.
For the next season.
Right.
So that was Joe Burrows' story. Okay.
That's interesting.
So let's move on to Herbert, the quarterback from Oregon.
Okay.
Okay, so rumors are he's going to go to Miami or San Diego in the top 10. That'll be in the top 6, actually. So how many Division I scholarships did he have offered? 0. He broke his leg in high school his junior year. That's usually when you take all your visits and all.
Right.
And no one offered him a scholarship.
Because of his injury?
Because of his injury, yeah. And so...
Well, because you don't know if you can recover from that.
Yeah. But he played his senior year. But they were just like, oh, well, no one really, they kind of dropped recruiting him, right? And he's kind of the prototypical guy that everybody wants, like size and arm strength and this kind of thing. But he had 0 scholarship offers. Then his uncle was a big Washington Huskies guy. He went to school there. He kind of pulled some strings and got him to kind of look at him, and he got him in a visit there. And then the Huskies were like, yeah, this kid's pretty good. So they were starting to think about offering him a scholarship. Well, his grandfather played for the Oregon Ducks, and his grandfather called the assistant coach at Oregon and said, listen, they're going to sign my grandson at the Huskies. He's good. You should take a look at him. So they started looking at him. And because the Washington Huskies were going to sign him, that's the reason Oregon signed him.
No way. They stole him.
They stole him. But that was how he ended up at Oregon. Otherwise,
that's really interesting.
He's not a Division I player and probably not getting drafted tonight.
That is crazy.
Okay, third story.
Okay.
Jordan Love. He's probably the least one you know, but he's in Oregon State.
Okay.
He's kind of like real athletic, kind of that new prototypical quarterback, can run and throw and all this sort of stuff.
Right.
How many scholarships did he get offered? 1 to Utah State. And you know who gave him that scholarship? Josh Heupel, the coach of UCF. He was their offensive coordinator. He's the one who recruited him.
Wow.
And then he left right after that and went to Missouri and then came to UCF. Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
And so he found him from somewhere, and that's how he became a college football player.
So random.
Isn't that weird?
It's really weird.
Okay, let's move to the big one, Tua.
Oh, gosh.
So let me give you a scenario.
Okay.
He played throughout the year some, but it was always in blowout time when he was a freshman, right? Jalen Hurts was really good, right? They were undefeated.
Yeah.
They were undefeated. They were in the national championship game against Georgia. And what happens? Jalen Hurts goes 2 for 5 for 17 yards in the first quarter.
And then they replace him.
No. Then at halftime.
Oh, it was halftime.
They
put Tua in.
The second quarter, he's 3 for 8 for 21 yards. And they're down like 13-0. And Nick Saban decides, and he had no plans to play Tua this game, except for some limited packages or whatever. He decides at halftime, I've got to change things because we're going to lose this game.
Right.
And he decides to put Tua in.
And the rest was history.
But listen, let's really follow the history. The first drive Tua had, punt. The second drive, they had a turnover, and he had a short field, so he threw a touchdown pass.
Right.
Third drive, he threw an interception. Fourth drive, they got a field goal, and then he scored right at the end to put it into overtime, and he threw that pass in overtime to win the game. But imagine if Jalen Hurts was 14 of 18 for 120 yards in the first half, and they're down 10-0.
Yeah, he probably would have never had an opportunity.
He's not playing Tua.
Yeah.
And who knows?
And probably Hurts would have stayed at Alabama.
Well, Hurts stayed for another year, but,
No, but like his senior year, he probably would have stayed.
He stayed for another year, but does Tua still get that same opportunity? Because it was clear after that performance that they weren't letting Jalen Hurts be the starter again. Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
And all of those guys will probably be first-round picks tonight.
I don't know. Eye roll.
And some people say the Patriots are going to take that Jordan Love.
That'll be interesting.
But we'll see.
They're not my team anymore, by the way. Now that Gronk is in the house.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. It's trivia time. Are you ready
I'm
for
ready.
some trivia? Star Wars edition.
Star Wars edition. Uh-oh, I'm scared.
I think you should know this. I did not know this. Can I call your brother for Lifeline?
Can I call him for a lifeline?
Okay. Whose DNA were the clones made from?
Oh, they were made from Jango Fett. I mean, was it Jango Fett or Boba Fett? You look confused.
Jango?
Yeah, Jango Fett. I got it. Yes!
Okay.
A slip on the pronunciation.
Okay, I was going to say.
I know.
That was from Mandalorian. When we were watching Mandalorian.
From the Clone Wars, I think.
We went back and started watching some of the older Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
And you always thought it was
I always thought it was Boba Fett.
Boba Fett for
but
the
he was
longest
the boy.
time.
It was Jango Fett, his dad. Yeah, I was wrong.
Blew your mind.
Blew my mind.
Okay, and let's wrap it up with a would you rather. Are you ready? Because this one's kind of gross.
I'm ready.
Okay. Would you rather let a stranger lick your foot or you lick your best friend's foot?
Oh, I would rather have a stranger, just not sensually or anything, right?
It doesn't say.
Just lick it, like one time, like one lick.
I mean...
I'm thinking I would rather lick, because I can't count you as my best friend. If it were you, I would just lick your foot. But
oh, that's so sweet.
But I would probably say a stranger lick my foot. It doesn't bother me.
I am not licking anybody's foot.
No
Sorry.
between the
offense.
toes or anything, right?
No offense, babe, but I am not licking your foot.
Probably a stranger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any day.
Yeah.
Sure, why not?
Why not?
I'll
Whatever.
step in the mud first, then get to licking. All right, guys. Well, that wraps up today's episode, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Sports Bliss with Rob and Chris. Available on Anchor.fm, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and everywhere else fine podcasts are found. Follow us on Instagram and leave voice comments at 407-494-6420. This has been a Sports Bliss with Rob and Chris production.